This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for any of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that has recently become a much bigger problem in the art community, and that's commission scams. They've always existed, but over the past couple months there's been a massive increase in the frequency with which they're happening, and they're getting way more convincing. I almost fell for one myself last month, and after that experience, I made a tweet warning others about it, which yielded a massive number of responses from other artists who had dealt with near identical situations. So because this is clearly a widespread issue that isn't going away, I wanted to bring attention to it with a dedicated video, because any artist accepting commissions is liable to fall victim to it at this point, and I want to make sure that if any of you do, you know all of the red flags to spot and subsequently avoid being scammed. But before we get into that, let me take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is both a longtime supporter of this channel and a website building and hosting platform that I swear by, as someone who uses them to host both my art studio website and my personal portfolio. And just by looking at those, you can see that their gallery options easily and flexibly let you make a beautiful portfolio, no matter what kind of work you're displaying or how you want to display it, with automatic image scaling that resizes and crops all of your images for you to make sure they look exactly how you want. But my dumb art doesn't do justice to what Squarespace can really do. Let my cats do it instead. That's right, I made not one, but 2 websites for my cats, complete with comprehensive galleries of my most ridiculous photos of them, expertly written biographies, very reasonably priced merch sections powered by Squarespace's e-commerce and print-on-demand integration, and members-only blog posts they definitely wrote themselves that you can pay to get access to. You can do all of that and more with your own site if you build it on Squarespace. And as I've said multiple times now, if I can make these websites for my cats look this good, you can make yours look much, much better. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and please go check out squarespace.com now to get a free trial to build a site you're truly proud of. And once you have, go to squarespace.com/touchofcelestia to get 10% off your first domain purchase. So all that out of the way, let's get into the video. As I mentioned, commission scams are becoming an increasingly prevalent problem within the art community as of late, but what actually are they? Well, they do vary from case to case, but for the most part, the recipe for this particular scam is fairly consistent. A potential client will reach out to you, usually on Instagram, but occasionally on Twitter or even via email, asking for a commission. These quote-unquote clients can seem really legitimate. They'll often have really specific requests for what they want, they're often very familiar with the commission process and will accommodate upfront payments, they're communicative and friendly, and they frequently have compelling stories for why they want the commission and who or what it's for. It's only once you accept the commission and start discussing payment that the scam becomes clear. They can only pay you with an e-check. They may have a multitude of ridiculously fake reasons for this, but the most convincing one I've heard was actually the one that I personally heard from the scammer that contacted me. That because the total amount due for the commission was so high, they couldn't use alternatives like e-transfer because of banking limits. Regardless of their reasoning though, these scammers will be adamant about only paying with e-checks, and that's because it's the only way the scam can work. See, banks have a legal obligation to give you access to money deposited via check within a certain period of time, usually somewhere between 1 and 5 business days. In some cases, for security reasons to prevent this exact scam, this will not apply to checks over a certain amount, but that amount varies and it's usually pretty high. But just because you've deposited the check and gotten access to the money does not actually mean that the check itself has been cleared. In reality, clearing a check and verifying that it's legitimate can take weeks, which these scammers rely on. In the case of commission scams, they're going to use that to do one of 2 things. 1, pay you with a fake check and get you to finish the commission before you realize the check has bounced, scamming you out of free art. Or 2, the much worse option, they'll overpay you. So say they want to pay you $200 for a commission. They'll send you an e-check for $2,000 and then say something along the lines of, "Oh, sorry, that was a mistake on my end, but I don't have access to that account for a while, so I can't send another one. Just deposit it and send me back the difference." So you deposit that e-check, you send them $1,800 and keep the $200, and 2 weeks later, the check bounces, the original $2,000 that was previously in your account is gone, you're out $2,000, and they get $1,800. The scam itself is nothing new. It's been going around for ages, but was previously more limited to things like, "Hey, you won this prize, here's an e-check. All you have to do is pay us the taxes on the prize." Or fake personal assistant jobs where they send you an e-check and tell you to buy items or gift cards for your so-called boss with that money. Now it seems like artists are their newest target, since those those particular scams stopped working. And let's be honest, we're an easy mark. Most of us are offering our services on a freelance basis and accepting payment in whatever form people offer. There are no real systems in place to protect us from fraudulent transactions because we're just individuals accepting money from other individuals. And most of us, myself included, are usually pretty desperate for work. It's disappointing to see that scammers have realized this and decided to exploit it, but it's not surprising. As a result, unfortunately, artists accepting commissions need to be way more careful than ever before when doing so, which is exactly why I'm making this video. Because less unfortunately, there are some pretty easy to spot red flags that can help you avoid falling victim to these scams, and I'm gonna go over them now. The first red flag, obviously, is the payment method itself. If a client is unwilling to accommodate your usual payment methods and will only pay via e-check, I would honestly say just do not work with them at all. Yes, there's a chance that they are a legitimate, well-meaning client that just has very strict preferences, but that chance is exceptionally low, and it's a hell of a lot safer to err on the side of caution and potentially lose one customer rather than risk that check bouncing, resulting in you either losing a significant amount of money or doing a significant amount of what is now effectively unpaid work. The next red flag is that they don't ask for your prices. They volunteer their price range in the initial message. The most common example I've seen people share is, "I'd like to pay you $200 to draw Spider-Man for my son," or "I'd like to pay you $200 to draw a portrait of my pet," but the amount does vary. What's consistent about it, however, is that it's almost always significantly more than what you would charge for that type of commission. For example, my scammer said that they would pay me $720 per piece, but based on the descriptions of the pieces they wanted, I wouldn't normally charge more than $200 each for any of them. That's a less believable example than what they generally use, though. It was pretty clear to me at that point that they weren't legitimate, because I have never had a client give me their price up front like that, much less one that was so much higher than I would have quoted them. Although I did play along a little longer just to see, because why not? That said, because the price was so high, it was immediately less convincing. In most cases, they know that. The reason they usually tend to offer $200 for a piece is because they know that it's just high enough to be more enticing than a normal commission, but not so high that it's not believable as something someone would be willing to pay for a piece of art. Generally speaking, it is not common practice for clients to tell you what they want to pay you right away. People are not generous, and they would almost always rather ask what you charge for your work so they can avoid offering to pay you more than the bare minimum that you'll accept. This isn't always the case. I have had some clients say, "Here's my budget, does this work for you?" And they were legitimate commissions, but their budget was always reasonable and, if anything, was lower than what I would normally charge rather than higher. If the amount offered makes you surprised by the client's generosity, question that. Not to be all nihilistic, people are always bad, but people are always bad. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. The subject matter of the commission is another potential red flag. For example, the two big ones going around right now are requesting Spider-Man fan art or a pet portrait. The pet portrait is becoming less prevalent in favor of the Spider-Man one, presumably because they're learning that most of the digital artists on Instagram that they're approaching don't draw pets and are much more inclined to draw Spider-Man. But it's an excellent example for that very reason. If you don't draw pets and a random stranger says, "I am desperate to pay you $200 to draw my precious dog Princess Floofles Poofles III, that's strange, because why would they actively seek out an artist who has nothing in their portfolio to show whether or not they can draw that subject matter well? They are, like I said, evolving though. They know artists are either finding that strange and ignoring them, or just not accepting the commissions because it's not something they draw. That's why they're shifting towards things like, "I want to pay you to draw Spider-Man." More artists would find that commission appealing and legitimate, at least within the circles of artists that they're primarily targeting. But still, think about it objectively. Looking at your posts or portfolio alone, would you commission you to draw what the client is requesting? Do you see enough similar work there to be sold on its quality? Like, I would accept a commission of Spider-Man because it does fall into the range of subject matter that I can draw confidently. But looking at the work of mine that I've posted, I wouldn't commission me to draw Spider-Man because that work is largely cute girls with bright colors in an anime-inspired style, which doesn't suggest to a potential client that I would do that commission well. So even if these accounts do start becoming more convincing in terms of what they're actually requesting that you draw, it's still very possible to be conscious of whether or not it does seem legitimate based on that. The next two red flags are both related to the client's account, assuming they contacted you via some form of social media rather than email. The first is that it's either a private account that you can't see the posts of, or it's an account that hasn't posted absolutely anything, or at least very little. If it looks like a burner account, it's probably a burner account, and people don't generally order commissions from those. The second is that they're not following you, which, in fairness, does not always mean they're not a legitimate client. They don't have have to follow you to like your work and want to commission you. But it is much more likely that if they really do want to commission you, they came to that conclusion because they followed you and saw your work as a result. This on its own isn't enough of a red flag to decline a commission, in my opinion, but combined with other red flags, it's worth considering. Another thing to watch out for is the way they order the commission. For example, I only take commissions on artistry now, which means that anyone who wants to hire me has to fill out my commission form there. That system is clearly advertised on all of my social media and my website, and based on the fact that I do regularly get 90% of my commissions directly through there now, with very few instances of people DMing me about it and getting redirected, I would say it's clear enough that most of the people following me that want to commission me can easily tell where to contact me about it. So when the scammer contacted me via email, that suggested to me right off the bat that they probably didn't look at any of my work or information, which clients generally only fail to do when they're not real clients. Again, this on its own is not enough of a red flag for me to advise you to decline a commission based on only that. But combined with other factors, if you're very clear about how to contact you for a commission and the client contacts you in a completely different way, it might be worth looking a little more closely at that. Conversely, if you don't even regularly accept commissions, don't make it clear that you do, or don't have any commission information available anywhere, it's a little strange to then be contacted for not just a commission, but a really high-paying one. Again, on its own, not a deal breaker, but worth considering in combination with other red flags. So finally, now that we've gone over the biggest warning signs for commission scams, let's look at one in action. Here's the email scammer who contacted me. It looks relatively legitimate at first, questionable, but you know. They asked for a quote rather than the upfront price that I discussed, and while it was weird to get the request via email, I do occasionally get industry work through there, so it wasn't that weird. I answered, asked for more details, and got them. Very specific, clear timeline and format requirements, pretty convincing. And then they did do the upfront price thing, despite having asked for a quote before, and as I mentioned earlier, offered me $720 per piece. For 10 total pieces, that would be $7,200. So 2 red flags right there. Upfront price range and ridiculously high overpayment. They also then ask about the payment method and propose the use of a certified wire check or cashier check, which is another one. I still followed up because, while skeptical, I really didn't have anything to lose by doing so, and explained my payment and progress update system, as well as requested to receive payment via e-transfer or PayPal. They answered by asking for my bank information so they could send a check, ignoring me completely, and encouraging me to start immediately. I followed up by enforcing that I could only accept payment via e-transfer, PayPal, Square, or Stripe for security reasons, and they responded by basically saying, "You're totally valid to be cautious, but just trust me, bro." So naturally, that's when I stopped responding because, yeah, okay, buddy. But as you can see, these scammers can be relatively convincing, and the red flags aren't always immediately obvious. The bottom line is really just to never accept payment via check in any circumstances if you can avoid it. And if you absolutely have to, only do so if you know the client well and are completely sure that the transaction is legitimate. Personally, I would recommend doing what I do, and that's using Artistry. Artistry is a site where artists can set up a form to accept commissions with, discuss those commissions with clients directly there, and accept payment for those commissions. And taking them there means having absolute security for your transactions. I'm not sponsored. I mean, they did sponsor me once, but they aren't right now. It's just the best way that I've ever found to take commissions and stay safe doing it. They also just implemented an anti-scammer update, which helps fight against this exact problem. You can report clients you think might be scammers, at which point Artistry will investigate them and block them from contacting you or any other Artistry artist if they are confirmed to be a scammer. It's a big reassurance, and especially given how big of a problem this is becoming now, it's the only place I'll ever be accepting my commissions now personally, and I'd encourage any of you that take them to consider doing the same. But that's all from me. Stay safe out there, don't trust suspicious commission messages, strongly consider never accepting e-checks as payment for commissions, and don't let Karen from accounting pay you a super legitimate $200 to draw Spider-Man for her very real son, Timmy. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, or at least found it informative. Special thank you as always to channel members Cafe Soleil, Joseph Solomon, Art of Amethyst Fable, and TC Pratt, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Blue Swanson, Cora Fear, Alengchi, Soul Crystal, Kim Yen, Shamil Sheep, Crazy Hassar, Gentong, Grayson Xavier, Ty Finch 94, Milkbean, Eeyore Heehaw, MG, Eclectrica, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, and Finn for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.